right, so motor is out of the streetcar. That's it right there. New motor is over there. I've already power washed it previous to this, but Nick and I had to take off the intake manifold to switch some stuff around. And so since the intake manifold's off, gonna just give it a quick power wash, taking the intake manifold off this engine and transferring everything over. Got new vacuum hoses and whatnot. So we're getting all that done. Excuse me, I'm burping, I got beer burps. Bench is a mess. Obviously everything's apart here. Everything to do with what's getting swapped over. So we are hustling on this tonight. The goal is to drive this car in 2 to 3 weeks at Shannonville with some of the homies. So that should be attainable. But Nick came by tonight. Say hi, Nick.
Hello, YouTube.
Nick shaved his head because he lost a bet and the Leafs lost the playoffs. So now we call him Caillou. This is Nick's Firebird, which hasn't been in a YouTube video yet, but we will be making one on it at some point. I've been working on this for Nick. We won't give away its secrets yet, so we'll save that for a separate video. But tomorrow, Nick's helping me work on his car, / still helping me work on this car. This is what homies do. Nick was like, hey man, when's my car gonna be done? And I was like, well, if you come help me work on my car, it's gonna be done a lot faster. So
I got suckered into this piece of shit.
Nick brought beer and pizza and we're getting shit done. So yeah, you know, power wash this engine, getting parts swapped over. Nothing too exciting, so I'm not gonna document all of it because, you know, it is what it is. But when we get somewhere significant, we'll make another clip. So say bye.
Juice it. Make sure you get enough on there, not too much.
My God, I don't think that's enough Loctite.
More? Okay, here. It's not my Loctite. You don't want your bolts coming loose. So there, now I think we have enough.
Jam them in there, dude.
Yeah, now you just take them and you fire them in these holes.
Holy.
Until the Loctite just oozes out. Then you know that it's been Loctited.
How to build a motor 101.
Just don't take it apart.
Guy's wild.
Looks like I'm bleeding.
Everything is stripped off the old motor. It's out of here, it's gone. The new motor for this car, it's been power washed. Because, you know, if you're gonna do it and you're in there, you may as well, right? So headers are installed, and then now just gonna be dealing with valve cover gasket, putting that on, gonna rotate it over, deal with all the cold side stuff, intake manifold, vacuum lines, all that jazz. But honestly, the biggest thing we have to deal with here is taking off all the front accessories to get to the oil pump chain and sprocket. So obviously pan's gonna come off, all the front accessories, including the crank. And then we're gonna get into really the meat and potatoes of this job. But lots of progress made. My boy Caillou helping out. So good night. We're calling it quits. It's like 1 a.m. We'll be back tomorrow to work on this a little bit and maybe a little bit on this.
All right, ready?
Night off right.
Had a little walk there.
All the warnings are going off. The new trucks. Please help. Please help. All right, day 2. We woke up, and of course, you can't go and work on cars as a Canadian without a quick Tim stop. Probably another burnout at some point. I mean, look at the smile on this guy's face.
Yeah.
He's just just up to no good, dude.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get our Tims, roll back to the shop, and then today we're gonna be working on Nick's Firebird as well as maybe a little bit more on the streetcar. So let's get these Timmies, bro. Made it to the shop, we're jamming and grooving. Nick's got my oil pan off on the 3-liter. He's just about to pull the crank pulley, and we're gonna take the front cover off and pull the oil pump and start doing the oil pump upgrades. While he's doing that, I'm doing AN lines on the Firebird. So we got our Vibrant Vice bench clamps here for the AN lines. Right now I'm making the return line on this system. So I already routed it from the engine back. We got the gas tank in the car with the appropriate fitting that we wanted to use. This is the first time you guys are gonna be seeing this on YouTube. So I guess I'll do a quick little 101 on this car. This is a 1980 Firebird. Nick's had this car for a very long time. It started its life as a V6 automatic, went through a few carbureted V8 iterations with a 4-speed, and then he decided finally that he wanted to end up and put a proper man's engine in it, as he laughs. This is a 5.3. It's pretty heavily modified, I guess you would say, like stock crank, but rods, pistons, everything else has been done. Should make around, I don't know, we're thinking between 450 and 500 wheel on like 91. So definitely fun for a street car. It's got a Holley accessory kit that I think looks really slick. That's the mid-mount kit. And we just did everything in black here, which I'm happy about. So all our fuel lines, AN lines, rails, coil brackets, power steering lines, all nice AN stuff. So I think it looks real slick in here. Pretty happy with how it's turned out. Not much left to do. It's got a nice new rad with dual fan setup and a shroud. So that's sweet. I did a bit of modification to get this in here, but it wasn't terrible. Right now, I'm just working on fuel lines, like I said. So I have from regulator to rail. And right now I'm doing the line that I'm making is the return line from the bottom of the regulator all the way down the frame rail to the tank. We're gonna make that. And then after that, we're gonna route the feed line and keep jamming. So after that, I'll be making the exhaust on this car, and then it's probably gonna get basically wired up at that point, running a Terminator system. So in this video, we're gonna be jumping back between my Beamer and this, but you guys will see more of this car as it gets closer to being done. Got the front of the engine off here. And you can see that we've got our timing chain as well as our oil pump chain. Timing cover is off. We took the oil pump off as well. In this case, because we're not replacing the chain, I just don't feel like doing it right now. All we have to do is take the 4 bolts out of the top, 5 bolts, next same 5 bolts. 5 bolts here. But before we did that, we took off the nut, which is obviously right hand loose, and took the sprocket off. And then that allowed the chain to be free, and then took the pump out itself. Important to remember, it's machine fit, so there's no seal here on the pump, so you don't have to worry about putting a seal or a gasket on afterwards. And this is what you're left with. So this slides into this gear. That's a machine fit as well. And there's an indication, I think, on each gear to line it up. So we took this off, and you can see here's the failure point. So this is the shaft that comes out of the oil pump, and the end of the shaft is threaded and splined, and the sprocket from OEM, from factory, it slides over those little splines, and then this little nut gets threaded onto these threads. So a few things you can notice is the diameter of that's pretty thin, and there's not a lot of threads there. So what happens in our case, or with the last 2 motors, is the fact that there's no tensioner on the oil pump chain allows the chain to slap back and forth at high RPM, and that shears the shaft right here. So then even if you do the safety wire on the nut fix or whatever it is, that doesn't matter, because once that shears, this is gonna come off with it, and you're gonna have your oil pump and nuts sitting in your pan and no oil pressure. So that happened to me twice. It's an issue. So to fix that, we have the Achilles Motorsport upgrade. So this is the new shaft. So this shaft gets pressed out. We're gonna show you how to do that in a sec. And then you press this shaft in, and you can see already it's a beefier shaft, and instead of the shaft being threaded at the end, the shaft is internally threaded, and it's a left-hand tight piece of hardware that goes in there. And you also have holes in the side of the nut, you can see there, for safety wire to go through, and you run the safety wire left to keep it tight, because this is a reverse thread bolt. And this is like a surefire way to fix that issue, because we're also going to be putting on a M3 chain tensioner. So we're gonna be drilling and tapping the block. So beefier pump shaft and a tensioner is gonna solve our issue. So like I said, splined on the shaft, threads coming out. Once you take the nut off, one thing that's important to notice with this is the end isn't splined, it's actually squared. And you can see on the sprocket, it's squared as well. And then here is the left-hand tight nut that has the holes and provisions in it for the safety wire. So that's important to note. Here's what's really important. So the measurement that you want to take before you press in your new shaft is from the face of this gear right here to the end of the part of the main shaft. So not to the threads, not to the splines down here, right here. So we'll show you what that looks like. So that's the measurement that we're looking for right there, that distance. Because we're gonna press this out. You can use a 3/8 tension to press this out, nothing crazy. And then we're gonna press in the new shaft, and you can use like painter's tape or some way of indicating it that you wanna get that same distance coming out from the front of the gear with the new shaft. And the reason that's important is because if that is too far forward or in, that's gonna change the offset, obviously, of the chain, and you're putting unnecessary stress on the chain and the sprocket. So that's really important to make sure that's done right. Here's how you get it set up in the press. Got it in there. And all we're using is a little extension, hydraulic press, boom, pop that bad boy out. Okay, pressing in the new shaft. We use tape to mark where we need it to go. Okay, so Nick's just putting some engine assembly lube on this. You don't need a ton, but enough to definitely cover, like you can be generous with it. Actually, this is just helping it so the oil pump goes to rotate at first. There will be some lube on there. It's also important to remember that when you fire your engine up after doing this, you need to prime the oil pump. So you need to pull your starter fuse and let it prime everything first to get this filled up. And then you can obviously fire it up after that. So
we look for the dot.
there's no dot on the housing.
Yeah, but dot is here.
Yeah.
And this just
Slides in there. Beautiful.
Now, Liam, do you want to pass me the other piece?
Yeah. So we're gonna take this guy. And like Nick just mentioned, you can see there's a little dot right on top there. Nick's gonna take this gear and he's gonna basically lubricate all the outsides of this gear with some engine assembly oil as well.
Without dropping it.
And then you line up the dot on the larger gear with the dot on this smaller gear. Yeah, perfect.
And then we look for this here dot. And with any luck, the bottom two should go in. Almost.
It's tough when your hands are full of lube.
There we go.
So sweet. So Nick's got that sorted out.
Dot.
Now he's just gonna do a quick clean on the gasket surface because, you know, it's machine fit.
And there is no gasket.
There is no gasket. And we're gonna put the bolts back on. Remember the torque spec or no?
I didn't look it up yet.
Okay, well make sure you guys look up your torque spec. It's low, so. And yeah, we're good to go. Got this on, safety wired. As you can see, left hand tight. So ran the safety wire through it, then looped it to these holes in the sprocket so that it's holding it left hand tight. Of course, some red Loctite on there. Torqued that to 20 foot-pounds. Now I am tapping and drilling the block for the tensioner. So I've got my first hole here, drilled and tapped. It's a 1364 drill bit and an M6x1 tap. And then I used, I got some McMaster-Carr hardware here. This is the S54 chain tensioner. Drilled the first hole there to hold it, and then we're gonna have to drill our second hole to put actual tension on it for this chain. So I'll keep you guys in the loop with that. Another fun thing, found out that this is broken, so I'm gonna have to replace that. But we are going drifting in 7 days, so hopefully I have enough time to come here and get everything with this engine back together. What's shaking, guys? We are back at the shop. I'm gonna try and spend a full day here today because we are drifting on Friday, or at least leaving on Friday, and today is Monday. Let's see what we can get done. Let me give you guys the rundown of what's going on, what we have to accomplish today, and where we're at. So, most important thing, main objective, complete. We got our upgraded Achilles Motorsport oil pump shaft upgrade with the sprocket and the hardware in there. It's safety wired. Then after that, drilled and tapped the block and installed a S54 chain tensioner. So for those who are wondering, may not be aware, there's kind of two issues with the 330s. One is that the factory nut backs off the shaft. I kind of explained that earlier. But really the issue I was having was that even though I had addressed the nut on the shaft on the other two motors, the chain slap was actually, you know, when you think about this chain moving back and forth, puts a lot of stress on where the factory shaft was on the sprocket, and it would shear the sprocket off with the nut and find that in the oil pans. We have addressed that. I think this should be good. Should be ready for all the RPM. Of course, while I was in here, realized that one of these chain guides is broken, which is pretty common, so that sucks, but I got my hands on one of those, so we're gonna replace that real quick. At which point, this motor is pretty much ready to start being resealed and assembled. So over here, got a bunch of gaskets, oil pan, timing cover seals, oil filter housing, gasket, intake gasket, rear main, kind of all the, you know, easy stuff to do while we're in here. Want to make sure this thing is nice and sealed up and not leaking. So we're gonna get all that, basically assemble the motor, get the intake on, do the valve cover gasket. I guess I'm gonna have to take it off the stand, obviously, to do the rear main. And once that's done, we'll throw the clutch pressure plate flywheel back on, get the trans mated to it, and then at that point, it's ready to get this thing back on the car. We're at that stage where it looks pretty overwhelming because there's lots of parts everywhere, but realistically, not a ton of work, just gotta get her done. So it's not super interesting stuff, and I'm not a big tutorial guy, so I'm not gonna go ahead and show everything that's going on, but we're gonna start jamming on this, and we'll catch up with you guys later. Front seal's back on, water pump, new water pump is on, oil pump housing is on, everything is regasketed, everything is tight right now. Still gotta put the oil pan on, valve cover gasket is on 100%. Just working on the intake right now. So I've got new intake gaskets, I've got all new like PCV hoses and whatnot. So just gonna swap all that over, make sure everything is good on this intake, and then we're gonna put this on, at which point I'll rotate the motor over, do the oil pan gasket, and at that point we're ready to take it off the engine stand and do the rear main seal, and then mate trans, clutch, flywheel, everything. So making progress here, slower than I would like, but it's happening. Last night got quite a lot done. Motor, in terms of everything on the top end, all gasketed, fully assembled, not coming apart again. Oil pan prepped, ready to go. Same at the bottom of the block. Just about to pull it off the engine stand and do the rear main seal. And then after the rear main seal, oil pan, and then you know, little things to button up top, but like main harness, intake, everything is good. And then you know, gotta go get all these guys on, but our pile on the table is getting smaller, so that is good. And it is Tuesday. We hustled a lot yesterday. We are trying to drive, or at least leave for the track on Friday, so I think if we stay at this pace, we should be good. But I also want to be packed and loaded on Thursday. I don't want to be pulling any 2 a.m. arrival at Shannonville on Friday, so just keep jamming here. But yeah, we're making good progress, so hopefully we can do some skids soon. Okay, nerds, the time has come. Motor's fully together, trans is on, everything but the power steering pump, which I'll put on once it's in the car. Got this unit on jack stands, which I hate. I got my buddy Nick's Firebird on the hoist. Could I have taken it off? Yes, but I'm really like jamming still on the Firebird, and I'm just being lazy, so kind of counterintuitive too, but we're gonna do it on the ground. Definitely not my first rodeo. Feel like I'm back in my old garage. But yeah, it's like 10 p.m. right now. I got a busy day tomorrow, but it is Wednesday, so that is okay because I have Thursday and Friday. But ideally, I'm gonna slam the motor in the car tomorrow and get it all buttoned up, started up, everything, because come Friday, all I really want to be doing is just packing the trailer and relaxing. So I think we're making pretty good time. Putting the motor back in the car, that's always the easy part. So as far as I'm concerned, hard part's over, tedious part's over, and that'll be the last time I ever do that on a 3-liter. This car's getting an LS for sure next. But yeah, we're gonna get this motor in the car tomorrow, fire it up, make sure everything's good, take it for a test drive, and then it's just packing for the weekend. Well, it's Thursday night, motor's in the car, everything's ready to go, motor back. Motor's all wired in. What's left is that I didn't realize, because I had other things in my mind, the last 2 motors I got were out of auto cars. They had a clutch fan, and I guess I got rid of those clutch fans. This came out of a manual car, so I'm on pause for tonight. I was ready to do the final push and get this thing running, but it's like 10 p.m. right now. This is all good. I feel good about it. So tomorrow I'm grabbing a clutch fan from my dude Adam at AD Parts and Performance. He's been a lifesaver throughout this process, just because there's always so many little weird obscure things that you forget if you have or don't have, or they break because they're 20-year-old plastic, etc. He's helped me out with everything, so he's got a clutch fan for me. So tomorrow gonna come in, mount tires, got 8 tires to mount, put a clutch fan on it, front end rad support, rad, hook up all that stuff, you know, fill it with oil, power steering and water, bleed everything that needs to be bled, etc. Fire it up, make sure it's good, and then we can load the trailer. So really not a ton of work to be done, but pretty solid progress. Had to do some other weird stuff too, like I installed the Part Shop Max center support brace for the car. So that was really the only thing left on the car that was not aftermarket. So feeling good about that. But yeah, I think we're gonna be good. We'll see. What is going on, nerds? All right, it is Friday, late afternoon. We are heading to Shannonville tonight. We fired the car up. It took us 3 attempts because we realized that the harness for the coil packs is actually different for a 2003, which is like a weird year, I guess. It's not the earlier style coil pack. This is not the later style plug that goes into the ECU compartment. Once we got that sorted out from our dude Adam, AD Parts and Performance, car fired right up. So we're good to go. Car sounds great, sounds healthy. We're going to mount tires, pack the trailer, and then we're going to head to Shannonville tonight. So that's going to conclude this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I hope you found the oil pump information useful. If you have a 3-liter, I highly recommend doing that. Otherwise, those motors are good. That is just kind of the Achilles heel of that motor. But yeah, you guys will see us basically in the next video, which will be taking place tomorrow morning when we get to Shannonville. And hopefully we have a good weekend full of shredding. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for our Shannonville recap video.